Unleash the humans. The command echoes through the Mars bunker, sending chills down Admiral Elena Vega's spine. She never thought it would come to this. Holographic displays flicker, illuminating grim faces around the war room. The Battle of Proxima Centauri plays out in miniature, Earth's fleet disintegrating under Lurian fire. Red warning indicators blink as alien warships breach the solar system's outer defenses. "They'll reach Earth in days," a general states, his voice cracking. Vega's eyes lock onto David Warren. The ex-Special Forces operative stands apart, studying tactical readouts. His reputation for unorthodox solutions brought him here as an advisor. Now, it might be humanity's last hope. "The Lurians have a superweapon," Vega announces. The room falls silent. "Intelligence confirms it can destabilize entire star systems." Panic erupts. Arguments fly. A civilian leader shouts about evacuation plans. Vega slams her fist on the table, restoring order. "Conventional tactics are spent," she continues. "We need something they won't expect." Warren steps forward. "I have a plan. High risk, but it targets their command structure directly." Murmurs of protest rise. Vega silences them with a raised hand. "Covert strike teams," Warren explains. "Small, elite units inserted behind enemy lines. We hit their leadership, disrupt their chain of command." A military analyst scoffs. "Suicide mission. Their defenses are impenetrable." "Which is why they won't see it coming," Warren counters. Vega weighs the options. Conventional warfare is failing. Earth's fall seems inevitable. She makes her decision. "Do it," she orders. "Assemble your teams, Warren. You have full authority." As Warren exits to prepare, Vega turns to her staff. This is now a black op, total deniability. Across the galaxy, on the Lurian homeworld, High Counselor Zarvek receives an urgent communique. His scaled hand trembles as he reads. "Summon Ava," he commands an aide. "The humans have made an unexpected move." Minutes later, a young Lurian enters. Her tactical genius is unmatched, despite her youth. "Analyze this," Zarvek orders, transferring data to her neural link. "Find their weakness." As Ava's mind races through combat simulations, Zarvek studies ancient texts. A prophecy speaks of a final confrontation with a species that defies logic. He always dismissed it as myth. Now, he wonders. Back on Mars, Warren briefs his hastily assembled team. Former rivals, criminals, and disgraced soldiers stand shoulder to shoulder. Each possesses skills crucial for the mission ahead. "We're humanity's last card to play," Warren tells them. "Our job is to create chaos in the heart of the Lurian Empire." As both sides prepare, the fate of two civilizations hangs in the balance. Human ingenuity faces off against Lurian technology. The final battle looms, with stakes higher than anyone could have imagined. As Warren exited the war room, his mind already racing with plans, Admiral Vega turned to her staff. "This is now a black op, total deniability." Warren wasted no time. Within hours, he had assembled a team of elite operatives, each handpicked for their unique skills and experience in unconventional warfare. John "Ghost" Rodriguez, a stealth specialist with a reputation for impossible infiltrations. Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist extraordinaire, whose knowledge of Lurian physiology could prove invaluable. Marcus "Tank" Thompson, a mountain of a man whose strength and resilience had become legendary among the Marines. And Alexei Volkov, a master hacker whose ability to crack alien systems bordered on the supernatural. As the team gathered in a secure briefing room, Warren received a priority transmission. His eyes widened as he scanned the report from Earth's deep cover agents within the Lurian Empire. "Listen up," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "We've got a target, Nix 9, a moon deep in Lurian space. Intelligence confirms it's the site of a secret research facility where they're developing the superweapon." Dr. Chen leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "What kind of defenses are we looking at?" Warren's expression hardened. "The worst kind. Advanced security systems, a battalion of elite guards, and the facility itself is buried under the moon's surface." "Sounds like a party," Tank rumbled, cracking his knuckles. Ghost remained silent, his eyes distant as he mentally mapped out infiltration routes. Volkov spoke up, his fingers dancing over a holographic keyboard. I've already started working on countermeasures for their security systems, but we'll need to get close first. Warren nodded. That's where this comes in. He gestured and a hologram of a sleek black ship materialized. The SSV Phantom, prototype stealth technology designed to slip past Lurian sensors. As the team studied the ship's specs, Warren continued, "We leave from Phobos in 6 hours. Get your gear and get ready. This is a one-way trip until the mission's complete." The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Specialized equipment was loaded. Each team member went through their own rituals, knowing the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. As they boarded the Phantom, the reality of their mission set in. Ghost ran his hand along the ship's hull, feeling the texture of the stealth coating. Chen triple-checked her medical kit and xenobiology equipment. Tank secured himself in a reinforced seat, while Volkov immediately began interfacing with the ship's systems. Warren took his place at the helm. "Everyone strapped in? Good, because once we break Atmo, we're in enemy territory." The Phantom lifted off silently, slipping away from the hidden Phobos base like a shadow. As Mars receded behind them, the vast expanse of space opened up, dotted with the lights of distant stars and the ominous glow of advancing Lurian ships. Hours into their journey, disaster struck. A massive solar flare erupted from a nearby star, its electromagnetic pulse washing over the Phantom. Alarms blared as systems flickered. "We've lost Cloak!" Volkov shouted, his fingers flying over controls. "Rerouting power, but it's not enough. We're exposed!" Warren's mind raced. "How long until we can restore stealth?" "Too long," Volkov replied grimly. "We'll be detected before— Wait." His eyes lit up. "There's a Lurian comm relay nearby. If I can hack in, I might be able to use it to mask our signature." "Do it," Warren ordered. Volkov's face contorted in concentration as he engaged in a silent battle of wits with the alien system. Seconds stretched into minutes. The team held their breath. Suddenly, Volkov grinned. "We're in. Rerouting their sensors. Now." The alarms fell silent. Warren checked their status. "Looks like we're clear. Nice work, Alexei." As they continued their approach to Nix 9, Dr. Chen pored over intercepted Lurian communications. Her gasp drew everyone's attention. "This can't be right," she muttered, rechecking her findings. "The superweapon, it's not just a destructive force. According to these readings, it's capable of manipulating space-time itself." The implications hung heavy in the air. Warren broke the silence. "All the more reason to shut it down. We're approaching Nix 9. Ghost, you're up." As the Phantom settled into a low orbit around the cratered moon, Ghost prepared for insertion. His advanced camouflage system hummed to life, bending light around him. "Remember," Warren said, "get past the outer defenses and signal us. We'll only have one shot at this." Ghost nodded, then stepped into the airlock. A moment later, he was gone, free-falling toward the moon's surface. The team watched their monitors tensely as Ghost's vitals spiked during his descent. Minutes passed with no communication. Then a single word crackled over the comm. "Clear." Warren nodded to the others. "That's our cue. Let's move." As they prepared to follow Ghost's path, none of them realized they were being watched. In a distant Lurian command center, a young tactical prodigy named Ava observed their progress with growing fascination. She adjusted holographic displays, her mind racing with possibilities. "Interesting," she murmured. "Very interesting indeed." Back on Nix 9, Warren's team began their descent, unaware that they were playing into a trap far more intricate than they could have imagined. The Phantom glided silently through the void, its stealth systems fully operational once more. Warren's team remained vigilant, each member lost in their own thoughts as they approached Nix 9. The cratered moon loomed before them, its surface a patchwork of shadows and harsh alien light. Ghost's successful infiltration had set the stage for their daring mission. As the team prepared for their own descent, Warren's voice cut through the tense silence. "Remember, our primary objective is to neutralize the superweapon. We go in fast, hit hard, and get out." The team nodded, their faces set with unwavering willpower. One by one, they dropped from the Phantom, using advanced thruster packs to control their descent. They landed in Ghost's wake, their boots touching down on the moon's dusty surface with barely a sound. Warren took point, leading them towards the hidden entrance Ghost had discovered. The facility's outer defenses loomed ahead, a maze of sensors and automated turrets. Volkov's fingers danced over his portable computer, disabling security measures as they advanced. They reached the entrance without incident, Ghost materializing from the shadows to join them. "Security's tighter inside," he reported. "Something's got them on edge." Warren frowned. "Then we move fast. Chen, you're on point with me. We need to locate that weapon." They breached the facility, moving swiftly through sterile corridors. The air hummed with an eerie energy that set their teeth on edge. As they descended deeper into the complex, the sensation grew stronger. Suddenly, alarms blared to life. Red lights flashed, bathing the corridors in a hellish glow. Warren cursed under his breath. "They've made us! Move!" The team broke into a run, racing towards the heart of the facility. Lurian guards appeared at the end of the corridor, their alien weapons charging with an ominous whine. Tank stepped forward, his massive frame filling the hallway. "I've got this," he growled, raising his reinforced shield. As Tank engaged the first wave of guards, the rest of the team pushed forward. They rounded a corner and found themselves in a vast chamber. At its center, a pulsating orb of energy hung suspended in a complex array of alien technology. "The superweapon," Chen breathed, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. Warren's mind raced as he assessed the situation. More alarms sounded in the distance, heralding the approach of reinforcements. He made a split-second decision that would alter the course of the war. "Change of plans," he barked. "We're taking it with us. Chen, figure out how to disconnect that thing safely. Volkov, I need you to find us a way out of here. Ghost, Tank, you're on defense." The team sprang into action. Chen approached the superweapon cautiously, her xenobiological expertise guiding her as she examined the alien technology. Volkov hunched over his computer, fingers flying as he hacked into the facility's systems. Ghost melted into the shadows, his advanced camouflage rendering him nearly invisible. Tank took up a defensive position at the chamber's entrance, his massive frame a bulwark against the approaching Lurian forces. Warren moved between his team members, coordinating their efforts. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the corridors beyond, growing louder with each passing second. "How much longer?" Warren demanded, his eyes fixed on the chamber's entrance. Chen's voice was strained as she worked. "Almost there. This technology is incredibly complex, but I think I've identified the key components for safe disconnection." Volkov spoke up, his eyes never leaving his screen. "I've found something. There's a hidden passage leading to a hangar bay. It's our best shot at getting out of here." Warren nodded. "Good work. Chen, status?" "Done!" Chen exclaimed, carefully detaching the last connection. The superweapon's pulsing glow dimmed slightly as it was freed from its housing. At that moment, the first wave of Lurian guards burst into the chamber. Tank met them head-on, his superhuman strength sending aliens flying. Ghost materialized behind the Lurian line, sowing confusion with precision strikes. "Move out," Warren ordered, helping Chen secure the superweapon for transport. "Volkov, lead the way. Tank, Ghost, cover our retreat." The team fought their way through the chaotic facility, Volkov's hacking causing widespread malfunctions to disorient the Lurian defenders. They battled through corridors filled with confused guards, relying on their superior training and adaptability. As they neared the hangar, a new threat emerged. A squad of Lurian battle mechs, towering war machines piloted by elite warriors, blocked their path. Warren's mind raced, searching for a solution. "Volkov, can you trigger a decompression in the adjacent chambers?" he asked, an idea forming. The hacker nodded, his fingers already in motion. Moments later, a series of explosions rocked the facility. Debris from the ruptured chambers pummeled the Lurian mechs, creating enough of a distraction for the team to slip past. They burst into the hangar, immediately spotting a Lurian transport ship large enough to accommodate both the team and the stolen superweapon. Volkov sprinted ahead, bypassing the ship's security systems with inhuman speed. "We're in," he called as the ship's ramp lowered. The team piled in, Chen and Tank carefully securing the superweapon, while Warren took the pilot's seat. The unfamiliar controls responded to his touch as he fired up the engines. The transport lifted off just as Lurian reinforcements flooded the hangar. Warren pushed the engines to their limit, guiding the stolen ship out of the bay and into the inky blackness of space. But their escape was far from assured. Lurian fighters screamed out of Nix-9's atmosphere in hot pursuit, their weapons blazing. Warren weaved through the barrage, relying on instinct and years of combat experience to keep them alive. "Volkov, get on those weapon systems," he shouted. "Everyone else, strap in. This is going to get rough." As Volkov returned fire, fending off the initial wave of pursuers, a massive shape appeared on their sensors. A Lurian battlecruiser moved to intercept them, its weapons charging. Warren's mind raced, searching for a way out. His eyes fell on the secured superweapon, an idea forming. "Chen," he called, "can you partially activate that thing? We need a distraction." Chen's eyes widened as she realized what Warren was suggesting. "It's risky, but I think I can do it." As Chen worked to activate the superweapon, Warren pushed the transport to its limits, dodging fire from both the fighters and the approaching battlecruiser. The ship shuddered under the strain, alarms blaring in protest. Suddenly, the superweapon hummed to life. A wave of energy pulsed outward, distorting the very fabric of space-time around them. The Lurian ships faltered, their sensors unable to penetrate the localized distortion field. Warren seized the opportunity, pushing the transport past the Lurian blockade. As they accelerated away from Nix-9, he set a course for the nearest human-controlled system. In the transport's hold, the team gathered around the still-humming superweapon. Its soft glow illuminated their faces, a mixture of exhaustion and triumph evident in their expressions. "We did it," Chen breathed, her eyes fixed on the alien device. Warren nodded, his expression grim. "We've won a battle, but the war is not nearly finished. This weapon could change everything, for better or worse." As the transport sped towards human space, none of them could have imagined the far-reaching consequences of their actions. The stolen superweapon held secrets that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy, but it also carried risks beyond their comprehension. In a distant Lurian command center, Ava watched the humans escape with a mixture of frustration and fascination. Her mind raced with new strategies, adapting to this unexpected turn of events. The young tactical prodigy knew that the next phase of the conflict would test both species in ways they could never have anticipated. As Warren's team hurtled through space with their precious cargo, the stage was set for a new chapter in the war between humans and Lurians. The lines between victory and catastrophe had blurred, and the fate of both species now hung in the balance. Balance hung in the balance. Warren and his team pushed their stolen Lurian transport to its limits. The ship's engines strained as they raced towards human-controlled space, the pulsing glow of the superweapon casting an eerie light throughout the hold. Days passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional burst of chatter as they evaded Lurian patrols. Finally, they crossed into friendly territory, a collective sigh of relief passing through the crew. "We're being hailed," Volkov announced, his fingers dancing across the alien controls. Warren nodded, keying the comm. "This is Captain Warren of the Human Defense Force, requesting immediate docking and high-level clearance. We have a package of utmost importance." There was a pause, then a familiar voice crackled through the speakers. "Warren, you magnificent bastard, get your ass to Jupiter Station on the double." A grin spread across Warren's face. "Copy that, Admiral Vega. We're inbound." The massive form of Jupiter loomed before them, its swirling storms a backdrop to the gleaming structure of the orbital station. As they approached, a heavily armed escort fell into formation around them, guiding them to a secure docking bay. The moment they touched down, a flurry of activity erupted. Elite security forces swarmed the ship, securing the area as Admiral Vega strode forward, her eyes fixed on the glowing orb of the superweapon. "Outstanding work, Captain," she said, her voice tight with terrifying excitement. "Let's get that thing to Europa. The eggheads are chomping at the bit to get their hands on it." Warren watched as the weapon was carefully transferred to a specialized transport. He caught Chen's eye, noting the mix of anticipation and concern on her face. "Go with it, Doctor," he said. "They'll need your expertise." Chen nodded, following the security detail as they whisked the superweapon away. Warren turned back to Admiral Vega, who was already issuing rapid-fire orders to her staff. "Get some rest," she told Warren and his team. "You've earned it. But be ready, this war is about to enter a whole new phase." Weeks passed in a blur of debriefings and strategy sessions. Warren found himself constantly shuttling between Jupiter Station and the research facility on Europa, where Chen led a team of scientists in unraveling the secrets of the Lurian device. It was during one such visit that Chen burst into the conference room, her eyes wide with excitement. "We've done it," she announced breathlessly. "The superweapon, it doesn't just manipulate space-time, it can create stable wormholes." The room erupted in a cacophony of voices, but Admiral Vega's cut through the chaos. "Explain, Doctor." In simple terms. Chen took a deep breath. "We can open doorways to anywhere in Lurian space, instantly. No need for long-range flights or risky infiltrations." A hush fell over the room as the implications sank in. Warren's mind raced with possibilities, scenarios flashing through his head. Admiral Vega broke the silence, her voice steady but charged with purpose. "This changes everything. We now have the means to strike at the heart of Lurian territory, to disrupt their operations on a scale we've never before imagined." She turned to Warren, her eyes glinting with perseverance. "Captain, I'm putting you in charge of our first wave of strikes. We'll create a network of wormholes, allowing you to hit multiple targets in rapid succession. Supply depots, shipyards, command centers. We'll cripple their ability to wage war." Warren nodded, his pulse quickening at the prospect. "When do we start?" "Immediately," Vega replied. "Assemble your best teams. We're taking this fight to the Lurians." In the days that followed, Warren found himself leading strike after strike into enemy territory. The wormhole technology allowed his teams to materialize behind enemy lines, wreak havoc, and disappear before the Lurians could mount an effective response. They hit a shipyard in the Proxima system, reducing it to rubble in a matter of hours. A fuel depot in the Tau Ceti sector went up in flames, the explosion visible from light years away. Command centers fell silent as human strike teams severed communication links and eliminated key personnel. With each successful mission, Warren felt the tide of the war shifting. Reports flooded in of Lurian forces in disarray, struggling to respond to attacks that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. But as they prepared for their most ambitious strike yet, an assault on a key Lurian stronghold, Warren couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The wormholes were becoming harder to stabilize, requiring more energy with each use, and there were whispers of strange phenomena occurring near frequently used entry points, distortions in space-time that defied explanation. As he suited up for the mission, Warren pushed these concerns aside. They were winning, and that was what mattered. He checked his weapon one last time and stepped towards the shimmering portal that would take them into the heart of enemy territory. "Let's move," he ordered, leading his team into the unknown. The wormhole swallowed them, hurling them across vast distances in the blink of an eye. They emerged in a cavernous Lurian facility, alarms blaring as their presence was detected. Warren raised his weapon, ready to press their advantage once more. But as the first shots rang out, he couldn't help but wonder, at what cost would their victory come? As the firefight intensified, Warren's unease grew. Something felt off about this mission, beyond the usual chaos of combat. A blinding flash erupted from the wormhole behind them, followed by a deafening crack. The portal collapsed in on itself, sending out a shockwave that knocked everyone off their feet. Warren's head slammed against the metal floor, his vision blurring. When he came to, the scene was one of utter pandemonium. His team was scattered, some unconscious, others struggling to their feet. Lurian soldiers poured into the chamber from multiple entry points, their weapons trained on the disoriented humans. "Fall back!" Warren shouted, firing his weapon to cover his team's retreat. But there was nowhere to go. The wormhole was gone, leaving them stranded deep in enemy territory. As they fought desperately against the overwhelming Lurian force, Warren's calm crackled to life. Admiral Vega's voice cut through the din of battle, her tone urgent. Warren, abort mission immediately. The wormholes are destabilizing. We're pulling everyone back. Get out of there now. Warren gritted his teeth, ducking behind a console as energy bolts sizzled past. Negative, Admiral. Our exit just collapsed. We're cut off. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end. Then, hold on, Captain. We'll find a way to extract you. But Warren knew the odds. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped in the heart of a Lurian stronghold. He watched as his team fought valiantly, their training evident in every move. But it wasn't enough. One by one, they fell to Lurian fire or were forced to surrender. A stun bolt caught Warren in the chest, sending him crashing to the ground. As darkness crept into the edges of his vision, he saw a Lurian officer standing over him, weapon aimed at his head. When Warren regained consciousness, he found himself in a stark, white room. The stench of antiseptic filled his nostrils, and he realized he was strapped to some kind of medical table. Panic surged through him as he struggled against his restraints. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," a calm voice said in perfect English. Warren turned his head to see a Lurian scientist observing him with clinical interest. "You'll only injure yourself further." Before Warren could respond, the door slid open, and a familiar face entered. Admiral Vega strode in, her expression a mixture of relief and concern. "At ease, Colonel," she said, emphasizing his new rank. "You're back in friendly territory." Warren's mind reeled. "How?" "It's been 3 weeks since your mission went sideways," Vega explained. "We managed to extract you and what was left of your team, but it was a close call. The wormhole technology nearly tore a hole in the fabric of space-time." She paused, her expression grave. "We've had to completely reassess our strategy. The Lurians have adapted to our wormhole tactics faster than we anticipated, and the risks of continued use are too great." Warren nodded, wincing at the pain in his head. "What's our next move?" Admiral Vega's eyes gleamed with willpower. "We're going back to basics, Colonel. Small teams, guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run operations, and you're going to train them." Over the next few weeks, as Warren recovered from his injuries, he threw himself into developing the new training program. He worked closely with Dr. Chen, incorporating the latest intel on Lurian technology and tactics into the simulations. The training facility on Europa buzzed with activity as the first batch of recruits arrived. Warren stood before them, his posture rigid despite the lingering pain from his injuries. "Welcome to hell," he announced, his voice carrying across the cavernous training room. "By the time you leave here, you'll be the most adaptable, resourceful, and unpredictable soldiers in human history. The Lurians think they have us figured out? We're about to prove them very, very wrong." As Warren led the recruits through increasingly challenging scenarios, reports came in of the new strategy's effectiveness. Small human strike teams were penetrating deep into Lurian space, hitting supply lines and communication hubs before vanishing like ghosts. But the war was just the beginning. In a secure briefing room, Admiral Vega revealed the latest intelligence to Warren and his top lieutenants. "We've detected a Lurian science vessel in distress," she said, bringing up a holographic display of a distant star system. "It crash-landed on a neutral planet in a disputed sector. Whatever's on that ship could turn the tide of this war." Warren studied the tactical overlay, his mind already formulating a plan. "When do we leave?" Vega smiled grimly. "Immediately. This is your chance to field test your new teams, Colonel. Don't let me down." As Warren boarded the stealth transport with his hand-picked team, he felt a familiar mix of anticipation and dread. The Lurians would be racing to secure the crash site as well. Whatever happened next would shape the course of the war, and perhaps the future of both species. The transport's engines hummed to life, carrying them toward an uncertain destiny. Warren checked his weapon one last time, his drive hardening. This time, they would be ready for whatever the Lurians threw at them. This time, they would adapt and overcome. Prevail. As the transport hurtled through space towards the crash site, Warren briefed his team on the mission ahead. "Intel suggests a Lurian science vessel went down on Kepler 186F, he explained, bringing up a holographic display of the planet. "Our primary objective is to secure any valuable data or technology before the Lurians can mount a recovery operation." The team studied the terrain map, noting the rugged landscape surrounding the crash site. As they neared the planet's atmosphere, Warren's comm unit crackled to life. "Colonel, this is Admiral Vega. We've detected multiple Lurian signatures converging on your location. Expect heavy resistance." Warren's eyebrows furrowed. "Copy that, Admiral. We'll adapt and overcome." The transport broke through the cloud cover, revealing a vista of purple-hued vegetation and towering rock formations. In the distance, a plume of smoke marked the crash site. As they touched down, Warren spotted the first signs of Lurian activity, dropships descending from orbit. "Move out," he ordered, leading his team towards the wreckage. They reached the crash site minutes before the Lurian forces arrived. Among the twisted metal and sparking circuitry, they found a lone survivor, a Lurian scientist named Lyra, who seemed more curious than hostile. You're humans," Lyra said, her translator struggling to keep up. "I've studied your kind. Perhaps we can help each other?" Warren hesitated, then made a split-second decision. "Dr. Chen, work with Lyra. Extract any useful data. The rest of us will secure the perimeter." As Chen and Lyra delved into the ship's databanks, the first wave of Lurian troops arrived. Energy bolts sizzled through the air as Warren's team took up defensive positions. "Hold the line," Warren shouted, returning fire. "We need to buy them time." The battle raged on, with Warren's guerrilla tactics keeping the numerically superior Lurians at bay. They used the wreckage as cover, setting up crossfires and false retreats to confuse and divide the enemy. Hours into the firefight, Chen emerged from the ship, her ears wide with excitement. "Colonel, we've got it. The data, it's revolutionary, but there's too much. We need to get it back to Earth for full analysis." Warren nodded, quickly assessing the situation. The Lurian forces were growing stronger by the minute. He knew they couldn't hold out much longer. "All right, listen up," he said, gathering his team. "Chen, you take half the squad and escort Lyra back to the transport. Get that data to Admiral Vega. The rest of us will stay and cover your retreat." Chen's eyes widened. "But sir..." "That's an order, Doctor. This information could change the course of the war. We can't risk losing it." As Chen's group prepared to move out, Warren turned to the volunteers who would remain with him. "It's going to get ugly, but we're going to show these Lurians what humans are made of." They watched as the transport took off, carrying their comrades and the precious data to safety. Then they turned back to face the advancing Lurian forces. Warren led his small team in a series of hit-and-run attacks, using the crash site's terrain to their advantage. They repurposed damaged Lurian tech, turning environmental systems into makeshift traps and communication arrays into signal jammers. As days turned into weeks, news of Warren's stand spread through human communication channels. Their actions inspired similar daring tactics across the front lines, catching Lurian commanders off guard and disrupting their carefully laid plans. Back on Earth, Admiral Vega wasted no time putting the newly acquired data to use. She assembled a task force of diplomats, intelligence officers, and military strategists to analyze the information and develop a new approach to the conflict. "This changes everything," Vega announced to the assembled group. "The Lurians aren't as united as we thought. There are factions opposed to this war, and we're going to exploit those divisions." As the task force worked tirelessly to formulate a new strategy, Dr. Chen made a breakthrough in her lab. She discovered that Lurians were particularly susceptible to certain frequencies of sound waves, which could disorient and incapacitate them without causing permanent harm. "Admiral," Chen reported, barely containing her excitement, "we can develop non-lethal sonic weapons based on this finding. It could give our forces a significant advantage in the field." Vega's eyes lit up with the possibilities. "Get to work on it immediately, Doctor. This could be the game changer we've been looking for." With the new intelligence and Chen's sonic weapon technology, Vega implemented a bold new strategy. She authorized a series of covert operations deep within Lurian territory, targeting centers of civilian population and government rather than military installations. "Our goal is to make contact with Lurian dissidents," Vega explained to her top operatives. "We need to spread information about the war's true nature and the possibility of peace." As human forces adopted these new tactics, the Lurian High Council found itself facing a crisis. Reports of human infiltration and growing civil unrest flooded in from across the empire. High Counselor Zarvek struggled to maintain control, while Ava, a prominent voice for reform, became increasingly vocal about the need for change within Lurian society. Meanwhile, on Kepler 186f, Warren and his team continued their valiant defense of the crash site. Their ingenuity and adaptability had turned the area into a veritable fortress, with Lurian forces unable to dislodge them despite repeated attempts. As Warren crouched behind a makeshift barricade, watching Lurian dropships circle overhead, he couldn't help but wonder about the impact of their stand. Little did he know that his actions had become a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity throughout Earth forces. The war had entered a new phase, with battle lines blurring as human operatives worked to foment dissent within Lurian ranks. The conflict shifted from a purely military engagement to a complex struggle involving propaganda, espionage, and ideological warfare. Lyra, the Lurian scientist who had cooperated with Warren's team, found herself at the center of this new phase. Her experiences with humans led her to advocate for peace and cooperation between the two species. She began working with human diplomats, providing invaluable insights into Lurian society and helping to bridge the cultural gap. As the effects of Admiral Vega's new strategy rippled through Lurian space, signs of a potential shift in the war's momentum emerged. Reports of Lurian military defections increased, and pockets of resistance to the war effort sprang up on several Lurian worlds. Human forces, emboldened by these developments, pressed their advantage. They launched a series of coordinated strikes against key Lurian military targets, using their new sonic weapons to devastating effect. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation that could determine the outcome of the war. With internal pressures mounting within the Lurian Empire and human forces demonstrating unprecedented effectiveness, both sides braced for a pivotal moment in the conflict. As Warren peered through his makeshift periscope at the Lurian forces regrouping for another assault, he felt a strange mix of exhaustion and anticipation. Whatever came next, he knew it would shape the future of both species and potentially redefine the balance of power in the galaxy. The sound of Lurian energy weapons charging up filled the air, signaling the start of another attack. Warren gripped his rifle tightly, ready to face whatever the enemy threw at them. The next few moments would be crucial, not just for his team, but for the entire human war effort. The next few moments would be crucial, not just for his team, but for the entire human war effort. As Warren prepared to give the order to return fire, a deafening roar filled the air. The ground shook, and for a moment both humans and Lurians froze in confusion. Then through the clouds of dust and smoke, a massive human dropship appeared, guns blazing. "This is Marcus Tank Thompson," a gruff voice crackled over the comm. "Heard you boys could use a ride." Warren couldn't suppress a grin as he watched the Lurian forces scatter under the barrage from the dropship's weaponry. "Tank, you beautiful bastard, your timing is impeccable." "All right, people, let's move," Warren shouted to his team. They sprinted towards the dropship as it touched down, providing covering fire for each other. As the last of Warren's team boarded, Tank lifted off, narrowly avoiding a volley of Lurian energy bolts. Warren strapped himself into a seat, his body finally registering the toll of weeks of constant combat. "Colonel," Tank called from the cockpit, "Admiral Vega sends her compliments. Your stand at the crash site has become a symbol of resistance across human space." Warren nodded, too exhausted to fully process the information. As the dropship broke atmosphere, he caught a glimpse of the planet's surface through a viewport. The crash site, their home for weeks, was now just a distant scar on the landscape. Back on Earth, Warren and his team were debriefed by Admiral Vega herself. The intelligence they had gathered from the Lurian ship had proven invaluable. "Your actions have given us a fighting chance," Vega explained, bringing up a holographic display of Lurian space. "We've launched a series of covert operations across these key worlds, making contact with dissident groups." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her eyes bright with excitement. "And our new sonic weapons have been a game-changer. We're able to incapacitate Lurian forces without casualties, which has significantly boosted our standing among the civilian population." Reports flooded in from across Lurian space. Uprisings and protests were spreading like wildfire, catching the Lurian High Council off guard. Warren watched the feeds with a mixture of awe and trepidation. High Counselor Zarvek is getting desperate, Vega continued. Our intelligence suggests he's ordered the deployment of their remaining superweapons. A hush fell over the room. Warren's mind raced, considering the implications. But before he could speak, an alert flashed across the main screen. Admiral, a young lieutenant called out, we're receiving a transmission from a Lurian fleet commander. He's requesting asylum. The room erupted in a flurry of activity. Warren watched as Vega quickly took control, issuing orders and preparing for the defector's arrival. Hours later, Warren stood in a secure hangar as a Lurian shuttle touched down. The hatch opened, revealing a tall, imposing figure. I am Krelvor, the Lurian announced, his translator struggling to convey the mix of fear and commitment in his voice. I bring information vital to your cause. Krelvor's defection proved to be the tipping point. More Lurian officers followed suit, bringing with them crucial intelligence on Lurian military capabilities and strategies. Admiral Vega wasted no time. She launched a bold offensive, targeting key military installations and communication networks across Lurian space. Warren found himself working alongside Lurian defectors, coordinating strikes that would have been impossible just weeks ago. As the offensive progressed, reports came in of a new development. Lyra, the Lurian scientist they had rescued from the crash site, had become a powerful voice for peace. She traveled from world to world, broadcasting messages of cooperation and mutual understanding. Warren watched one of her transmissions, marveling at how far they had come. We are not so different, Lyra's voice rang out. Humans have shown us the power of adaptability, of thinking beyond our rigid structures. It is time for us to evolve together. But even as victory seemed within reach, a new threat emerged. Reports came in of a hardline Lurian faction seizing control of a planet-destroying weapon. Their leader, General Drazikul, broadcast an ultimatum to both human and Lurian worlds. This war will continue, Drazikul's voice boomed, or we will reduce your worlds to ash. Warren stood in Admiral Vega's war room, studying the tactical display of Drazikul's fortified position. The tension in the air was palpable as both human and Lurian officers debated strategies. We need a surgical strike, Krelvor suggested, pointing to a weakness in the defenses. A small team could infiltrate and disable the weapon. Vega nodded, her eyes scanning the room before settling on Warren. Colonel, I'm assigning you to lead this operation. You'll have your pick of personnel, both human and Lurian. Warren felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He looked around the room, seeing drive in the eyes of both humans and Lurians. Despite the gravity of the situation, he couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. I'll need John Ghost Rodriguez for stealth, Warren began, formulating his team. Dr. Chen for her technical expertise. And Krelvor, if you're willing, your knowledge of Lurian systems will be crucial. As the team assembled and began preparations, Warren found himself reflecting on the strange turns this war had taken. From the brink of defeat to forming an alliance with their former enemies, humanity had indeed come a long way. The Joint Task Force boarded a stealth ship, their destination a heavily fortified Lurian world. As they entered hyperspace, Warren addressed his team, a mix of human and Lurian faces looking back at him. What we do here will determine the future of both our species, he said, his voice steady. We're no longer fighting against each other, but for a shared future. Let's make it count. The ship emerged from hyperspace, the Lurian world looming before them. As they began their approach, alarms blared. Drazikul's forces had detected them. Warren gripped his seat as evasive maneuvers threw the ship into a wild spiral. Brace for impact, the pilot shouted as energy bolts streaked past the viewport. The mission to save both species from annihilation had begun, and the odds were already stacked against them. The ship rocked violently as another energy bolt found its mark, sending sparks cascading from a nearby console. Warren steadied himself against the bulkhead, his mind racing. They couldn't fail now, not when they were so close. He turned to his team, a mix of human and Lurian faces looking back at him with grit. Change of plans, he barked. We're going in hot. Rodriguez, you're up. John Ghost Rodriguez nodded, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. On it, Colonel. My team's ready. As the ship weaved through the barrage of enemy fire, Warren laid out his strategy. We're launching a multi-pronged assault. Rodriguez, take your infiltration team and disable those defense systems. Krelvor, you're with him. Your access codes might be our ticket inside. Krelvor, the Lurian defector, inclined his head. Understood, Colonel. I will not fail you. Warren turned to Dr. Chen, who was already calibrating a device in her hands. Doc, how's that sonic disruptor coming along? Chen looked up, her face etched with concentration. Almost there. The Lurian scientist's input was invaluable. This should destabilize the weapon's energy core, but we'll need to get close. That's where I come in, Warren said grimly. I'll lead the main assault force. We'll draw their fire, give Rodriguez's team the opening they need. The ship shuddered again as it began its descent towards the planet's surface. Through the viewport, Warren could see the massive weapon installation looming ahead, surrounded by a web of energy barriers and defense turrets. Remember? Warren addressed the team one last time. Human or Lurian, we're in this together. Watch each other's backs. Let's end this war. As the ship touched down under the cover of a nearby ridge, Warren's forces sprang into action. Rodriguez and his infiltration team, a mix of human stealth experts and Lurian tech specialists, vanished into the shadows of the complex's outer perimeter. Warren led the charge with the main assault force, human and Lurian soldiers moving in perfect sync. The air crackled with energy as they engaged Drazakul's forces head-on. Warren ducked behind a fallen pillar, narrowly avoiding a blast of Lurian energy fire. Push forward, he shouted, returning fire with his plasma rifle. Beside him, a Lurian soldier named Vextor provided covering fire, his larger frame shielding Warren from incoming shots. Inside the facility, Rodriguez's team encountered their first major obstacle, a series of laser grids protecting a critical junction. Alex, a human recruit known for his acrobatic skills, stepped forward. I got this, he said, eyeing the grid. With fluid grace, Alex launched himself into a series of flips and twists, his body contorting to slip between the lasers. Zorax, a Lurian tech expert, watched in amazement. Impressive, he rumbled. But we're not through yet. His fingers danced over a datapad, temporarily disabling the next set of security measures. As they progressed deeper into the facility, the resistance grew fiercer. In a narrow corridor, Rodriguez's team found themselves pinned down by Drazakul's elite guards. Energy bolts sizzled past their heads as they took cover behind a set of blast doors. We're cut off, Rodriguez shouted into his comm. Warren, we need backup. Outside, Warren assessed the situation quickly. Chen, you're with me. We're going in. He turned to his second-in-command. Keep them busy out here. Make it loud. Warren and Chen fought their way through the facility's winding corridors, the sounds of battle echoing all around them. They arrived just in time to see Rodriguez take a glancing hit to his shoulder. Krelvor, without hesitation, grabbed Rodriguez and pulled him to safety. I've got you, human, he said, returning fire with his free hand. Warren and Chen's arrival turned the tide. With precise shots and tactical maneuvers, they cleared the corridor. Chen immediately set to work on Rodriguez's wound, applying a quick seal bandage. The control room is just ahead, Krelvor informed them, consulting a holographic map. But Drazakul will be waiting. Warren nodded grimly. Then let's not keep him waiting. Everyone, get ready. This is it. They breached the control room with a coordinated blast, smoke filling the air. As it cleared, Warren found himself face-to-face with Drazakul, the Lurian extremist leader's eyes burning with hatred. You're too late, human, Drazakul snarled, his hand hovering over the weapon's activation panel. One move, and I'll reduce your world to ash. Warren's mind raced, assessing the situation. Chen was inching towards the weapon's core, the sonic device clutched in her hands. He needed to buy her time. It's over, Drazakul, Warren said, keeping his voice steady. Look around you, humans and Lurians, working together. This is the future, not your weapon of mass destruction. Drazakul's face contorted with rage. With a roar, he lunged at Warren, abandoning the control panel. Warren met him head-on, their bodies colliding in a fierce grapple. The two leaders fought furiously, a blur of human and Lurian combat techniques. Warren's agility allowed him to dodge Drazkul's powerful blows, while the Lurian's superior strength threatened to overwhelm him at any moment. As they fought, Chen and her Lurian counterpart worked feverishly to install the sonic device. "Almost there," Chen muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. Warren found himself pinned against the wall, Drazkul's forearm pressing against his throat. His vision began to blur, but he could see Chen nod to him from the corner of his eye. With a surge of strength, Warren brought his knee up, catching Drazkul in his midsection. The Lurian stumbled back, giving Warren the opening he needed. He tackled Drazkul to the ground, locking him in a hold. "Now, Chen!" Warren shouted. Chen activated the sonic device. A high-pitched whine filled the air, and the weapon's core began to flicker. Drazkul howled in dismay as his prized weapon powered down, its energy dissipating harmlessly. As Warren secured Drazkul, the rest of the team swept the room, capturing the remaining extremists. The facility was theirs. Warren activated his comm. "Admiral Vega, this is Warren. The weapon has been neutralized. Drazkul is in custody. It's over." The response came back immediately, Vega's voice filled with relief and pride. "Excellent work, Colonel. You've just changed the course of history." As the team began to secure the facility, Warren looked around at the humans and Lurians working side by side. The war that had brought them to the brink of annihilation had also forged an unlikely alliance. Now, as the dust settled, he couldn't help but wonder what the future held for both their species. The deactivated weapon stood silent, a testament to what they had accomplished together. But Warren knew their work was far from finished. The real challenge, building a lasting peace, was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.